Okay, good morning. I'd like to call the February 14th Standing Policy Committee of Public Works to order. We are here with Councillor Chambers, Councillor Eadie, Councillor Sharma, Councillor Lukes. We've got our clerk, Mr. Prinsloo, and we've got Mr. Berezowski's here from Public Works. We've got people in the gallery. We've got probably people online. So I'd like to welcome everyone, and I'd like to acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3. And Councillor Chambers, would you like to move the minutes of the last meeting?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Now, Mr. Clerk, we've got a couple delegations here.
We do. First, we have Mr. John Winthrop registered, but I don't see him here.
Okay.
And then after him, we have Mr. David Grant, who is in support of item 5 and in opposition to items 6, 4, 9, 3, 1, and 2.
Right, and Mr. Grant is live streaming.
That's right.
Great, so I'm going to ask if Councillor Chambers can take the chair while I attend to something. Kind of thing.
Oh,
Runs away.
yeah, you got it.
Speaker.
That's what I'm flag.
Hello? We're on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. With all this buttons pushed and so on. Anyway, I guess we have the notes I sent in. On the Parking Authority business plan, they're planning to spend our money to improve the service for bike parkers, people parking bicycles. That seems like a good thing. I might even use it myself. I do occasionally bike around downtown. But since this is a business plan, where is the paragraph explaining how those costs will be recovered? Street parking is an important source of revenue for WPA. Sadly, the WPA has lost sight of the fact that it is also an essential service for most Winnipeggers. For most parts of the city where there's paid street parking, there isn't necessarily a parking lot convenient. So for some, we use street parking because it's cheaper for a short visit than a lot. And for others, it's the only convenient place. But unfortunately, for a number of years now, WPA has made their street parking fairly exclusive. You used to be able to have a meter right at your spot. Now the nearest place that you can access the street parking and pay for it may be blocks away and out of sight. And days like today, it's not fun running up and down Kennedy trying to find a parking space vendor. Anyway, I don't think until you see that they're making it inclusive for people who don't do everything on a phone, you should not accept item 1. Topic 2, when I was a city engineer, the pickup I used for field sampling was several years old. We minimized vehicle purchase costs by keeping them vehicles far longer than the city does now. On top of that, modern vehicles are far more reliable. In years 5 to 8 than anything that was around in my day. Yet we still supply the used vehicle market with vehicles that are far from being used up. On topic 3, sidewalk plowing. At first, asking what other cities do seems like good governance. It seems that Winnipeg is like other cities in this single question area. In the real world, Winnipeg is the odd one out in other ways. Most other cities plow streets and require residents to clear the windrows or drive through them if there isn't much there. I lived in such cities for 30 years, and we all accommodated that. We spend far more than those cities because of the extra cost. Those cities send one plow down a street. It may make 2 passes, may not. We send 2 plows and 2 loaders down every small residential street. This costs a lot of money. It employs people and they like it. And certainly the residents like it. Anyway, you failed to ask those other cities, because you're doing a poll of them on winter accommodations, how snow plowing is done on busy roads with no sidewalks. You've heard me say that here before, because it is a concern of residents here. And we're getting into that kind of situation now on Rochester. It's a road that serves hundreds of people, And many of them are out there walking, either walking their dog or trying to get to the bus. And we do not have sidewalks, and the road is getting icy and quite dangerous. And it'd be interesting to know how other cities, because I'm sure there are other cities where their suburbs don't have sidewalks. It would have been interesting to ask them that. So perhaps the next poll of winter cities could include that factor. On topic 4, pavement research. To those who pay little attention to issues, this probably seemed like a good idea. There are 2 glaring issues. 1, there is enough knowledge extant to make our roads last longer. We already know how. I have heard zero mention of the city making use of any of those changes that would make the roads last longer. Topic 2, was the cost of this program ever evaluated against how the deliverable information was expected to improve upon prior research, existing stuff here and elsewhere? Anyway, on topic 5, this is a carefully written analysis of this proposal. I liked it. I think we should see such analyses here more often. If somebody's going to propose something, lay out all the factors. If it's a traffic issue, lay out all the ways that traffic will be impacted and how this can be mitigated. So, topic 6, while using folks on foot as pylons, and I know that's not necessarily a comfortable thing to image to have, it may seem like a good idea. I see this as a symptom of City Hall's refusal to recognize the root cause of the most preventable injuries. Most of us on foot take great care when we're in traffic. We watch for cars with which we might cross paths and wait rather than arrogantly stepping in front of them. There are many folks who do not watch for cars and step dangerously in front of cars, which at times cannot stop in time for them. You're now training a new crop of pedestrians to step in front of cars, hoping that they will both notice and stop in time, or not start off if they're making a turn when the light turns green. These people will follow your lead and step in front of other deadly situations. The city's claim that any step to encourage ped safety is victim blaming, because that's been raised at City Council before, is inherently false and counterproductive. Why are we not installing red do not walk lights facing those who want to use our crosswalks? That alone would address one of the known root causes of injury. Why is City Hall afraid to make real improvements like that one? And on the speed limit on Waverly, to the uninformed, this might seem like a good study. It's actually significantly flawed. I've done more than 20,000 speed surveys on this road. One of you may note that one of you may have done some of these yourself. As with most Winnipeg roads, speed signage here is atrocious. To those who have never seen a speed limit sign on Waverly, some of them travel at 50 kilometers an hour like they would going down any city street. They're unaware that it's an 80. And some of them travel at 60, exactly 60. And they're obviously expecting it's just the same as Pembina. They don't see the signs, so they don't know. So you have when you're trying to survey speeds, you have different populations, different demographics. When somebody is going 50 and somebody is going slow beside them, then that whole traffic stream goes at 50. So if you're surveying speeds at that moment, during that time, you tend to get an unusual result. The time of day that the surveys were taken was not mentioned. Every day, traffic slows to 30 or 40 or 50 kilometers an hour because there are more cars than the road can handle. If that time period is used, then you get very low numbers. When traffic is light and drivers are paying attention, nearly every vehicle travels between 80 and 85 kilometers in the 80 zone. No one travels at 75. This data set that suggests that almost everybody is traveling at 75 is misleading. To measure driver inclinations, if that's what you're going to use that 85 percentile number for, one must use only light traffic situations in dry daylight road condition. If you measure when the road is clogged, you might find an 85th percentile of 40 kilometers an hour. This has been part of experimental design in the physical sciences for as long as they've existed. And I think this experiment is either done incorrectly or its data and timing have not been explained completely. And that's my comments. If you have any questions, feel free.
Thank you, Mr. Grant, for your comments this morning. Are there any questions of committee members? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation and have a great long weekend.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye-bye.
We'll move into reports now, starting with the Winnipeg Parking Authority 2025 business plan.
My name is Ashley Williams, Program Manager with Winnipeg Parking Authority. I'll be presenting the business plan today with our Finance Manager, Gabriela Rosa. Randy is sends his regrets, he's off sick today. So as you see before you, we've got our Parking Authority business plan that we submit to Council each year. The business plan aligns with the multi-year budget. So in this business plan, this is our WPA budget for 2025 to 2027. It includes goals and strategies over the next 3 years, performance measures, and audited financial statements for the 2023 year. Our business plan outlines that we will be transferring approximately $8.3 million to the city's general revenue fund in 2025. On January 16th, 2024, we presented our preliminary budget to this committee. In that presentation, we did have some elements presented from our business plan in terms of our 2024 achievements and some of our future initiatives. So I'll just highlight a few of those and then we can go into any questions that you may have. In 2024, for our 3 different service lines, we sort of flagged out some of the key accomplishments for the year. So in the parking side of things, we continue to develop the Winnipeg Parking Strategy, which is our 5-year plan for parking in Winnipeg. We introduced a new online system for people that buy residential parking permits and time-limited parking areas to make it easier for people to apply for these types of permits, and implemented the new tiered system for cost recovery of that program that was approved in the 2024 budget. We assumed management of the city's electric vehicle public charging stations. So those were previously managed from the Office of Sustainability when it was a pilot project, and that has now shifted over to the Parking Authority to be managing those. And we integrated 230 Winnipeg schools into our intuitive routing system, so it makes it easier for us to be proactively patrolling and enforcing safety-related violations around schools in Winnipeg. In terms of one of our other lines of service, the Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Act and adjudication process that we administer, we had developed a more informative and user-friendly online screening portal, which really is intended to help residents submit a request for review when they're disputing an MBA penalty notice online, that they can see their contravention, their photos, follow up on any request. A little bit more of a user-friendly way for them to do that. So that will be launched in the next few months because it was developed last year. Screening times, we had a lot of really great improvements in that. So when anyone comes for 22 different bylaws that enforce through the Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Act to our office or online to dispute a ticket, in 2023, it was 24 weeks, so 6 months that it took for a resolution. And now we're at 8 weeks, so 2 months. So we've done a lot of improvements in catching up on the backlog and providing better service from that perspective. For the vehicle for hire side of things, there was our annual report that has already gone through this committee and council for the annual report, but just a few key things from there is that we made the Winnipeg Wave permanent. We had a record high number of trips, 10.2 million trips with vehicles for hire, and did some improvements in training programs, and also transferred 8.7 million to the general revenue fund. So in terms of the future facing initiatives from 2025 to 2027, we'll be finalizing the Winnipeg Parking Strategy for presentation to council. That will come forward after the TMP, so probably a month to 2 months after, to make sure that the transportation master plan update that is presented is approved, because our strategy will align with that. We're going to be undertaking high priority repairs to the parkade, that Millennium Library parkade that was approved in the 2024 and 2025 budget.
So that's really mostly for slab repairs to the parkade and any sort of high priority things like the air handler unit that needs replacement. We're looking at improving customer service experience at the parkade by expanding access to secured bike parking. So as we're doing these high priority repairs, we're just looking at how can we reconfigure it to allow for more bike parking, and also looking at other improvements for people that are parking their vehicles in the parkade, where we will have mobile payment and reservation options, so you can sort of reserve your space ahead of time. We're exploring opportunities to provide electric vehicle charging infrastructure for car share vehicles in the public. So that will, that would come through a separate report, likely a pilot project, but we're still looking into the budgetary requirements for that. And that would be in partnership with the Pig City Car Share Co-op, so that half of the charging station could be used for car share vehicles. The other side could be used for the general public.
Just on that one, are we having any funding coming from any levels of government for this electric vehicle charging infrastructure, or what's?
We haven't even developed the budget yet for it. We're just starting to explore that. We know that Pig City is really interested and keen on doing that. They're including electric vehicles in their fleet, so they want to be able to have some ability for people to top up, particularly when they're in the downtown location. So we're just sort of at the more preliminary phases of that.
So
We're going to be looking at augmenting a vehicle-related enforcement of the streets bylaw to support residents and other stakeholders. So any offenses in that bylaw that are something that we could look at doing when we're out and doing other enforcement, we're going to be looking at that. So things like if a vehicle is parked across a crosswalk or a sidewalk without a permit, not this crosswalk, but the sidewalk without a permit, for example, or over a curb, we would be able to help augment that for the streets department, particularly because we have 24/7 ability to do enforcement.
So what does that mean? Augment vehicle related enforcement, augment vehicle related, so like more ticketing of infractions?
Yeah, ticketing for vehicle infractions, and particularly on the hours where the streets constables aren't available to go out. So because we have 24/7 operations and the streets constables don't have that ability, we would just be supporting the streets maintenance division of our department to do anything vehicle related. Like if a vehicle was dropping mud or debris on the street, we would be able to look at issuing a ticket for that.
So are you gonna what are you gonna do? Come forward with a list of those things or what?
We do have a list of them already that we had internally reviewed, and because it's just a delegation within our own department to allow us to do that, we have the authority to do it. So it's just as soon as we have our processes in place that we can get going and doing it, we'll be starting that within the 2025 year. So it's
they're
just
already there.
So can you provide us a list?
yeah, for sure, I can provide this. I have examples if you'd like them.
Well, this is, a lot, like some of this is related to construction probably, is that correct? Some of the issues, so we seem to get a lot of heat from construction and not enforcing certain things.
Yeah,
So-
the lane closures, we're not doing as much for that in this phase of helping to support. But we are doing with lane closures, which helps with construction, is in this upcoming year, we are putting all of the lane closures into our intuitive routing system, so that within our department where we can be working with the transportation division, for example, to look at, could that help them with that type of enforcement? It helps us to know sort of where permits are taken up so that we can know whether we should be ticketing or not. But some of the examples, there's only about a handful of 4 offenses that we're looking at for the augmenting the streets bylaw. So depositing earth, stone, garbage from a vehicle onto a street, so always vehicle related ones. Depositing mud or clay onto a street, engaging in activity including parking or stopping a vehicle on the street that obstructs vehicular traffic on a street without a use of street permit. So that would be for individuals or corporations. So for some of those ones where we can't issue the ticket direct to the vehicle, we need to look at what other systems the special constables use currently to see if we can do that as well, so that we can basically just help increase the enforcement of those types of offenses. Okay. Good. We're also looking at improving the online service delivery for virtual appointment-based review of a penalty notice. So it would have the same feel as when you come into the office and you're talking to a screening officer to dispute a penalty notice issued under the MBA, but it would be something like a Zoom type of application.
So what is the current online service?
Currently, you submitted an email.
Right,
essentially,
right,
And
right.
you're communicating back and forth by email, so this would have a little
Right.
more personalized
Right.
feel. We do have a lot of requests do come through us generally online, but this would be a little bit of a nicer feel. People don't have to worry about parking when they're coming into the parking store where there's a bit of limited parking around there. We're also going to be continuing the wheelchair accessible vehicle centralized dispatch as a permanent program, as was already approved by council. And implementing recommendations of the vehicle for hire training program, where this was some revisions will be done to the training program to modernize it, make it more accessible, streamline it, so there's less time for drivers to have to take the training. And one other thing that's not in our business plan that Randy wanted me to relay to this group as well is that we have a new collection agency contract that is going to be coming into play, where we're going to be sending information to the credit bureau to affect credit ratings for any outstanding fines. So that's part of our ongoing efforts to try to see how we can do our best within the legislative frameworks that are available to us right now to collect any of the outstanding fines for.
Right, so that's what I wanted to dive into more in the financial part of it, right? So I don't know if we do it or not, but I guess we could do it now. Okay, so you'll recall committee members other than Councillor Edie, it was Councillor Wyatt, about a year and a bit ago, it was when we were talking about applying tolls for 3 tickets. If people had 3 parking tickets, they hadn't paid them, that they were towed. So that was implemented, and at that time, we talked about what the value of outstanding parking fines were. So maybe you could give us an update now on what the value of outstanding parking fines are that are not paid.
Thank you, sorry. I just would like to clarify, when you talk about the value of outstanding parking, you mean overall, or the one that's
Yeah.
part of the?
Let's do the whole thing.
Overall.
So,
As of December 31st, unpaid parking equal to $7.85 million.
so there's $7.85 million outstanding of unpaid parking fines. Okay, and for 1 year now, you've been doing this 3 tickets in tow. So how has that engaged people to pay their tickets?
If you look at it overall, at the initial group of people that were part of that policy and the outcomes now, as terms of how much people paid, the collection rate there is 20%. However,
So 20% of the 7, give us numbers.
sorry, okay. The initial part of that toll policy was, sorry, I have it here. The initial part of the toll policy, it was $3.4 million. That was part of the toll policy.
Okay, so 3.4 million was 3 tickets
3 tickets
or more.
Correct.
So 3.4 million. Okay, so
So out of this $3.4 million tickets, overall, we've collected almost 800,000 to date.
that's 20%. Is that 20%?
23.78.
Right.
However, the reason for those tickets being paid, it could be because of the toll policy or because of other collection means such as liens. So if I factor out liens completely, what could happen? Like the ticket was on a toll policy at the beginning, and then throughout the year we lien that account and then got paid. So if I factor out those ones, the collection rate is much lower. It's 5.7%.
So it's liens that seem to be collecting?
Liens is definitely a very effective tool to collect. We can't lien every account, and then we, as I mentioned before many times, work from large accounts down to lower accounts. It's rather punitive process because there are additional fees associated with that. So the smaller your account gets, the proportion of those fees becomes higher and higher because it's a flat fee. But it's a very effective way to collect because if you don't deal with the situation, you don't pay it off, your vehicle gets taken and sold off eventually.
So how many more liens are we doing? Are we doing more liens than we were in the past? Because there
We've
was
been
some-
doing extra effort towards liens in 2024.
Mhm.
So we've doubled our production in leads in 2024. We slowed down towards the end of the year because of the Canada Post strike.
Right.
So we can't deliver those notices to individuals properly. So we're picking it up again, but it's very effective tool. Like when I was talking, for example, about overall parking fines outstanding, like December 31st collection rate was 87%. Whereas December 31st, 2023 collection rate was 85%. But it's like, it seems only 2%, but it's such a large amount that you're talking about, that even that 2% translates to a good chunk of cash, basically.
Right, right.
So,
So then, so you've increased your initiatives on liens.
lease has been always in place. It's just like in 2024, we put extra effort into it.
Right, well, what does that mean? More staff on it, or what does that mean?
Worked overtime. People worked overtime to go through more accounts, select accounts for liens, register those liens, transfer those liens to our vendor.
Right, so, right, because I know Councillor Sharma, you were concerned about the liens aspect of it at one point. Okay, so then now, we're very limited in our tools, right? Like 7 million is what is a 1% tax increase is about 7 million, right?
Roughly one.
Yeah, so, and we're really limited in collection opportunities. So we have liens, we have the 3 tickets. Now you're speaking of possibly going down to 2 tickets and a tow.
Yes.
So that might happen when?
By August at the latest.
By August. So then enough of the 3 tickets. If you've got 2 tickets and we find you've got 2 tickets, we're gonna tow you, okay? In August, that's when we're doing that. And now you're speaking of, and this is something that came from our meeting that we had a year ago, was the credit bureau.
The
Right.
credit bureau, yeah, that's something that we can do within our authorities. The other things that we were looking at too, because in addition to the roughly 8 million that Lubov's talking about for parking, there's another 4 million or so for outstanding fines for other municipal bylaw enforcement act tickets issued from the other departments.
Right.
So this is where back in late 2023, about October 2023, we had submitted a report to this committee that went to council, asking the province to see, can we get
Right.
further legislative tools like plate denial, insurance denial,
Right,
adding fines to property taxes, so that
right.
from our perspective, we understand those conversations are ongoing with the province. So those tools are the ones we think would be more effective and also less punitive to people than leaning. Like plate denial, insurance denial is less of a hardship on somebody coming and their vehicle's told it's been lead, it's been sold. So those are the ones that we had really recommended, but out of our control of the public service, so that's why we've asked for the province to look at those, but the credit bureau is something new that we're looking at doing to see exhausting all the potential avenues that we can to collect on.
Right, so let's
parking
just talk about the credit bureau. So how does that work? If a person has X amount of dollars, number, or what?
So far, based on my discussions with our new collection agency, like there's no requirement to X amount of dollars. It's basically an account, place account with them. They send a letter to individual. The individual has 30 days from delivery of the letter to deal with it. If they don't, it gets reported to credit bureau.
It gets reported to the credit bureau, and then that can impact mortgages or all kinds of things that they want.
Well, it impacts the credit rating. So
Yeah,
if you
sure,
want
yeah.
to buy a car or
Sure.
renew a mortgage or what have
Sure.
you, so yeah.
And then that's removed when they've paid it. Okay, so this is another positive tool. So when's that going to go into effect?
In the next couple of weeks. We can find out. You're ready to go? You're ready to go? Pretty much, because like yesterday I received a draft letter, for example, from the collection agency, like, so there's some comments that I have, so we'll figuring out those kind of operational things, and then the next couple of weeks, we should be able to place first accounts for them.
Are we doing any media on this or an awareness on this?
We will have updates to our website, and we could definitely do a media saying, you know.
So I would like to
Yeah.
really have a media awareness on this to,
So with you saying that, in my social media in River Park South, somebody had contacted or reached out indicating that they'd received a letter from River City bailiffs. And the fact that their vehicle, that the messaging in the letter said their vehicle there's a potential for it to be seized, impounded, and they would have to pay associated fees. And again, many people who responded on that said it's a scam. With all the scams that are going on around now and for payment on this or payment on that. You know, a lot of people were reporting potentially a scam, don't pay it, hide your car, the whole 9 yards.
Can't they phone the place?
Well, to Counselor or the chair's comments about a media campaign, there should be some awareness that, no, it's not a scam. I mean, we have what, $4 million in outstanding fees?
No, we have like 12 million.
12 million, okay. I stand
12
corrected.
million. That's
So-
2 tax increase, 2%.
So, yes, so when events like this come up where there's a blitz or the River City bailiff is aggressively moving forward as they've been instructed. You know, the media or the public should know it's not a scam. We are after those funds. You know, it's not punitive in any way. It's that if you parked illegally or parked and then your meter ran out and, you know, you were issued a ticket. You know, in this particular case, the individual said that the ticket was from 2017. So really had no idea that a ticket 8 years old would still be enforced. So again, having a media. Well, hey, hey, don't shoot the messenger. But again, just something to residents, just indicating that, yeah, we're moving to enforce these outstanding tickets. You know, it is a mechanism where you know, we're trying to control or trying to monitor or you know, street parking and making sure that there's turnaround and turnover and things like that. So yeah, it's important that we make sure that residents know we are moving on collecting these outstanding fines.
I understand, yeah. I agree.
And so, right, so we've got 7 million in tickets and then the rest are in the other issues like, give us a couple examples just so we could have the MBNA ones, the violations.
Barking dog,
Barking dog,
uncut grass,
uncut grass,
garbage on property.
garbage on
Roof is
property.
not repaired, like window not properly glazed, those kind of.
Right, so $12 million, which is like about a 2% increase. Now I had a budget consultation in South Winnipeg and actually a minister came from intergovernmental affairs or the municipal minister, the municipal minister
yeah.
came. And I spoke to him very clearly about this, asking for the same ability to, you know, plate denial, insurance denial, license denial that the province has.
Yeah.
That the province has. Because if you, in the province, let's say you don't make your, or I don't know what it's called, kid payment when you're separated, you know,
Child support,
child support, so you don't pay child support.
not speaking from experience.
Okay, well, but you know, they can do this, and I mean, the city has limited revenue sources. We're trying to, you know, well, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel, and it's frustrating. It's very frustrating that the province is not acting on this. They'll act on it for themselves, but they're not acting on it for the city. So we are going through these other avenues, right? To ticket the free ticket, the credit bureau, the liens. Whereas if the legislation changed, then, you know, this would be like a 2% increase. Like we need $12 million, right? So this is I'm you know, frustrated by it. I mean, I know they're talking, but like it's.
Absolutely, but that $12 million, if nothing is radically done, like it'll continue to grow because each year you issue the tickets and percentage of it remains uncollected. So
Yes.
that number grows and grows over
Yes.
years.
The rate doesn't increase, that stays the same, right?
Right.
The ticket rate doesn't increase, it stays the same, which
Well,
honestly,
The ticket rate might increase because over the last number of years, a lot of different departments are starting to use the Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Act as an enforcement tool.
oh,
So we are seeing an increased number of offenses going under that act, and we're working with a lot of the departments in the last year about education of how to use that as a streamlined tool. So any fine $1,000 or less can go through that. There's a really easy dispute mechanism through our office to contest the ticket. So what we are seeing is we're starting to look into things like in other departments that are using it, their voluntary payment, so people coming through the door and paying an MBA fine is extremely low compared to parking.
right,
So it's like, you know, 25% of people come in and pay their let's say it's neighborhood livability. So they come and they pay for any offense under that. So the enforcement officers in that area have gone out, they're trying to get compliance on issues. So it has a different intrinsic effect outside of just outstanding debt, that we want to have stronger teeth in the back end so people comply with our bylaws. So if they know that they're just gonna get away with it and not have to pay their fines, some of this group of people, that causes an impact on our ability to effectively enforce different bylaws that are using this legislative tool. So that's another discussion point probably with the province to say, to communicate. And also parking, you've got 87% people are paying, so these other people aren't. It's really an unfair sort of system that way too. So it has a lot of sort of interconnections that were the ability for us to enforce our bylaws. We want the right legislative tools so people know that they need to pay them.
And that's, I mean, I'm just looking at the response that I made and I've just edited and updated. City of Winnipeg has about $12 million in outstanding parking fines. River City Bailiffs is one of the company's contracts to collect outstanding fees. As the city has not received approval to temporarily suspend license until outstanding fees are paid, seizure of property is the only remaining tools for collection. If you are disputing the unpaid ticket, contact Winnipeg Parking Authority to confirm it's either paid or still outstanding and receive additional information about outstanding fees, outstanding offense notices. And then I put the link to the Winnipeg Parking Authority. But again, just looking at this post that was done yesterday at 8:27. Again, a lot of people are saying it's a scam.
Yeah, it's a really good point. We can definitely work with corporate communications that maybe we could even have a regular, like quarterly sort of social media that goes out about the different types of things people might expect to see, like letters, so that they know it's not a scam, and to always contact the city because we have it looked
Well,
up.
and again, one of the comments that came back was based on the fees. They're thinking that the city collects everything. And, you know, so I did respond and say, no, the city only gets what it's owed, but the bailiffs have the right to set their own towing fees as well as impound fees. That doesn't come to the city of Winnipeg.
Correct. You also be correct, and I would like also to point out that those current contract, it's done through RFP. So we went to meeting, and that was the most advantageous bidder that we had. So.
Right.
And another thing I'd like to comment, you mentioned somebody with a ticket from 2017 and they didn't realize they still owed. That ticket went through 2 collection agencies before now. Like it received letters from us and it went to first collection agency we had and it went to second collection agency we had. So it's not that individual didn't really know that they had it. They just maybe hoped that it would go away, which it didn't.
And we even have a few steps before it goes to the collection agent,
Absolutely.
like when by legislation, we have to send out a notice that they've got a ticket. And then there's another final notice that we go over and above legislation. So we do a lot of communication at least before we could do the collection action.
Absolutely.
letters.
And another comment in terms of that is scam, like and I understand, like you get the letter, you're thinking, oh, it's a scam, you just throw it in the garbage. At the same time, though, there are different ways to verify it. You can always call 311 and they will verify it. You can go on the River City Bailiff's website and there is a dedicated Q&A for this contract. Like once you go there, it's like right at the top, it says parking authority contract. So you could see it's there and there's some.
Well, I mean, the only reason why I raised this, and it is an item for discussion, but 170 comments on this one page with respect to this one issue, so, you know, it does merit.
Absolutely, I agree with you. We'll definitely work on the campaign, absolutely. I'm just saying even now, the information is technically available.
Yep.
So what year was it that the province took the ability away from us to do the claim, like to do the licensing, like to, was that when the MBNA Act came in, or when did that happen?
My understanding is that we never had that ability.
Oh, we never had that
Like
ability.
there used to be legislation called the Summary Convictions Act, and I'm
Right.
pretty positive I can follow up and let you know. But I'm
Right,
pretty positive we didn't have
never
the
had that
ability
ability.
in that.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have a question, Counselor Sharma, or?
No, it's good.
Okay, okay, well, yeah, ideally, we'd like the province, you know, to step up and this is a very minor legislation thing that they would have to do, would really, really help the city. But in the meantime, we're going to be pursuing these other avenues and,
I do have.
Yeah.
Back to, just, with respect to the collections that the groups do that we hire, how are those going right now? We've talked in the past, is that system?
Like the collection agent?
Yes, you give certain files to them here locally,
Oh,
and
that
is
would be
that
awesome.
process
Sure.
going well?
Absolutely. The company that we hired is called CBV Collection Services. It's a national company. It has
Well, I'm
office-
talking about our local, have those files passed on to local folks here. Remember, we had a meeting a while back?
Correct. But it has office in Winnipeg.
Okay,
So if somebody would like to come and pay, they have this ability to do it in person to a collection agency. Yeah. But it has offices in BC, Winnipeg, Quebec.
are their rates of collection doing well? Because I know at times you were waiting for files, right? The conversation we had, I think about a year ago, we had a few meetings, Councillor Luke's and I with your group. Yeah, so they are getting the files needed from us to do their work in a timely manner.
They will, absolutely. We just awarded the contract. We had like a few meetings with them to work out different, since a new collection agency was to work out like different operational setups, like how we transfer files, like, what format, those kind of
Who
things.
are all the agencies currently we're working with?
We have River City Bailiffs for liens and seizure and CBV Collection Services for everything else.
Okay, and that's the new one, the second one I mentioned.
That's
Okay,
the-
the previous one you mentioned, River City Bailiffs, how is that going in terms of the files they get?
It's going well, I believe, yeah, like things like I was mentioning before, Canada Post strike, for example,
Yes.
affected our ability, right? So we didn't, because you have to deliver that letter by regular mail, right? So the regular mail is not operational, so.
So there's no delays on our end getting files, they're doing well with their collections?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Okay, okay, so your parking strategy is coming forward. When is that bylaw review? There's the big bylaw review that the city's working on that every,
Corporate enforcement strategy?
yeah,
We're
corporate enforcement strategy.
We're targeting April for that to go to EPC. It might lead into May, depending on how long it takes to finalize the administrative report we're just preparing on that.
Right, and just recap the corporate enforcement strategy, what it is.
Sure, so the.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's not related to our business plan, but it is something that Parking Authority and Community Services were tasked by the Chief Administrative Office to work on. It initiated from a 2018 bylaw amalgamation audit that the city auditor did that looked at bylaw enforcement practices across the city to sort of see how that's going since we got new legislation in 2016 with the Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Act and Provincial Offences Act. So essentially that audit had a number of findings, including that we really needed to have a corporate citywide framework for how we approach bylaw enforcement throughout the city. So there was a report submitted to EPC about a year ago that just talked about that we are going to be developing a corporate enforcement strategy to ensure that we have corporate goals established, that we have performance metrics to look at how effective our enforcement programs, what level of enforcement activity are we doing, looking at standardizing things, not necessarily the enforcement approaches, but standardizing the communication and tools that the public could expect to see so that it looks the same between departments. If you're giving like a notice that you're in contravention of a bylaw and it's a warning, it will have the same look and feel as it does when you're issuing a penalty notice or any other compliance order. So to reduce sort of the confusion to the public, there's some sort of offshoot projects that are getting looked at with that strategy to see how we can also improve bylaw enforcement outside of just having the enforcement strategy. So sort of improve 311 triaging, where you have multiple departments that might, deal with garbage, deal with abandoned vehicles, instead of hot potatoing it around to different departments, finding better streamlined ways to manage those. So that strategy will lay out what the corporate goals are so that everyone's working towards the same goal in the end. We have a number of objectives that are going to be tracked pretty diligently in terms of the performance to see how well are we doing. And it's been working really well, working collaboratively with all the departments across the city on developing that.
Super, that's great, okay. Okay, well, I mean, we went through your plan kind of in the budget process, so we were in detail on that. Do the committee members have any more questions from the parking authority? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've been great with your reports, with your checks and balances. You always can find information when I ask. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Okay, all right, so motion to move their business plan.
So moved.
Okay, Councillor Sharma, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, now we've got Fleet. Fleet. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for that wonderful summary that you sent to me. I'm gonna send it to the committee members. It's just a kind of a fingertip summary. I really appreciate that. You went over and above what I expected, so thank you.
Problem anytime.
So I'm gonna
make notes of that.
And I was just gonna say, go on vacay more often.
Okay.
Laws are in, not out.
All right, so we went over most of this in the budget, but you know, we're all overwhelmed and had a lot going on, so just give us a little recap here, okay?
Budget, or I can give some highlights.
On your plan, what you're doing.
Business plan.
Okay, so I guess I mentioned last month, we did our financials and budget. We can do a summary right after this. What I can do is highlight some things we're working on this year coming up. So we're continuing with the implementation of our new fleet management information system. So what that is, replacing redundant systems, getting us more up-to-date current technology, better analytics, better reporting, reducing duplication of entries. It's bringing us into a more current system that'll be a lot better for use. We also continue with addressing the recommendations highlighted in our fleet management audit in partnership with the CAO's office. We've met probably about 6 to 8 times, somewhere in there, and our focus this year was not only reviewing the recommendations, but the low utilization. So we'll be continuing that on an annual basis and trying to remove low utilized vehicles from the fleets. We also will continue with installing our new replacement automatic vehicle location devices in all our fleet vehicles. We've moved over to GeoTab, which is what the province is using. So it's much better reporting analytics information available to departments themselves and the fleet performance. We also will review the results of our all-electric vehicle infrastructure study, which was just completed at the end of 2024. So what that was, it's about a 382-page report with a consultant come in and assess all the vehicles that could be converted to all-electric, which was about 663 vehicles. So it's your sedans, your SUVs, pickups, and vans. We're also to assess the locations where these vehicles were parked to ensure we get the hydro capacity and what the infrastructure would cost and will be required. So there's about 62 sites. So just for those 62 sites, just the EV infrastructure, not including vehicles, is roughly about 11.5 million. So what we'll be doing is the consultant was able to prioritize locations for our biggest bang versus the least. So next budget, in the 26 budget, we'll be including, say, the top 2 or top 3, the cost per location, if we get some budget dollars for the infrastructure and the vehicles in the next budget talks. We also are doing a pilot trial and test for propane powered vehicle, about 17 vehicles. So we want to determine future suitability, potential cost savings, estimated emission reduction. This is a 2-year trial. We've got our first vehicle just done. We're working on our second one, so hopefully that'll get some interesting results as well.
Okay.
That's going to highlight in the budget.
It's pretty much all in our budget presentation.
Yeah,
Financial
yeah.
piece.
So what benefits do you two feel that the city's getting from having this as an SOA versus not, like having the fleet department as a standalone?
We do have some delegated exemptions to allow us to better procure and manage the fleet, which is different than line departments. We have our operating charter is what guides our operations approved in council back in 2000 to 2003. Do we abide by it 100%? No. Does it probably need to be revised? All SOAs need to be revised? Probably. I know there's one of the previous CAOs to got around to it. It seems to be working. Where we reside, we've been all over the place kind of thing. We were in the CAO's office and then, out of the public works.
From a financial perspective, like having a central service provider, there's economies to that. Like from a procurement operations, working on the vehicles. There's definitely economies from having this done by one agency to provide that service to other.
So for some of our lightweight vehicles, is it cheaper to buy or lease?
In the current cycle,
We have done that analysis. We've done comparing rent to lease to buy. At one point in time, it was cheap to rent. So we had a pickup truck for like $500-600 a month. Now it's like over $2,000. So that's definitely
Now it's over $2,000
based on month.
a month. Wow.
So that's not very cost effective. We did compare lease versus buy, and it's pretty well even. There's no real gains.
The buy option is typically a little bit cheaper than
The buy option.
than breakup, but in most cases, that's.
Now you don't have the capital outlay with a lease as you do with procurement. That's the only difference. So in the budget. So again, though, you're making the money's going somewhere else as opposed to within the city.
And how do you control, the department comes forward and they want an F-150 when really they don't need that? How do you keep requests in line?
So we do challenge departments that are requesting something that based on what they've told us it's for versus what they want. So we do challenge departments back, and that's where the fleet oversight committee is in place now. We would take those, if we disagree with the department, we take it to the fleet oversight committee, and the fleet oversight committee would say, yes, we agree or don't agree.
That committee resulted from the audit, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And we are working on standardizing our specs so that departments only have a certain number of vehicles to choose from as opposed to, I want this, and now we've got 40 different variations of vehicles.
Right.
We want to mirror what Manitoba Hydro and the province is doing. Basically, here's what you have to choose from. You pick one of those, and that's all you're going to get.
And when's that going to be put into place?
We're going to get that done before the end of this year.
and more or less, you're not far off where you're at right now. Like looking at hydros and Manitoba infrastructure, like I was saying yesterday. The thing, there's a lot of variables in saying, the city of Winnipeg, you only deserve half ton, no controls. You'll sit on a crate and we'll save money. There's no company that manufactures that. Like we 30 years ago, we used to procure vehicles and take the ensure there was no air conditioning or radio, you know, and that time frame has passed everybody by because it's all about the resale. And so that's what's being produced is what's going to carry the most highest residual value at the end of the line. So there is some challenges with that, but there's also erroneous requests, and so that's what you have to try to limit the convenience of X, right? So when you look at the province, for example, do they put a requirement to ensure that there is Bluetooth connectivity with the vehicle, right, for hands-free communication? Yeah, it's becoming a standard, right? But when you look at a standard vehicle now, that comes standard anyways.
Yeah.
So there is some challenges with that. Like right now in the environment, we just post-COVID, we talked about this before, and we said it at this committee 2 years ago that we have to get out of this environment. The landscape will change with rentals and ownership, and we're already seeing that in the industry. So 2 years ago, when everybody was talking here at the table saying, well, these prices are going through the roof, they're not coming down, we're not getting any incentives to procure fleet, we were getting no discounts. Well, those things are already coming back right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we more or less at that time said, let's be patient, let's be strategic. Like running out and going and buying an electric vehicle for $100K, right? Let's be strategic. Let's be prudent with the taxpayers' money. And now we're getting back into more of a, I think, getting a little bit normalized.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah, it's still, yes.
So we're dealing with internal challenges. Now, for every department that operates off the fleet environment, and speaking on the department side, the bottom line is that we were budgeted at a period of time for maybe a $750 a month, fleet vehicle. Okay. And as Dennis alluded to, these are running 1,800 to 2,000 now. The budgets haven't changed and the service expectations are greater. And yet we're 3 million short of Public Works, for example. And so those reviews that we're doing, it's not just about putting a line in the sand and saying industry standard says that, a vehicle used in a city environment should travel X kilometers for value. And then we turn around and we say, we want that unit possibly to last longer. We strategically limit the amount of travel that vehicle is in other words, a buffered area, and then turn around and get punished for managing its effective use and saying, well, you don't need that. Well, no, we need it. We were being strategic about managing it. And so there's a lot we need to work out as a steering committee as well. But the positive on that is that we are evaluating some that, yeah, they're definitely being challenged, and there was a significant number that were either changed.
Yep.
In other words, we could use something possibly cheaper, possibly, and we're willing to do that, right? So there's some good news stories in all of that, and coming up with a blanket standard for the equipment, especially for, like, a lot of agencies would say, okay, you're a technologist supervisor. All technologists and supervisors do require a vehicle to conduct their day-to-day operations. This is the type of vehicle that you're being provided with. That's what we're looking for, is that consistency. So in the standard, excuse me. But the challenge that we have is when fleet goes and puts out a lease procurement or for those rentals, the company that's providing that, they want that residual back.
Mm-hmm.
And so what are we seeing on our side is pretty nice looking units that the public just gets very upset about.
And that's the problem. We did try to request on external rental tenders a basic vehicle.
Yeah.
Basically, we were told we're not bidding.
No, yeah.
So either we wind up, we get stricter on what we're requesting and we get no bids and we
Yeah.
got nothing,
Yeah.
or we open it up and leave it as is.
Right.
Even when we're bidding for our normal vehicles that we own, the manufacturers are bidding, they're higher. It's basically the basic vehicle now with just, the rubber floor mats and they roll down.
I know.
It doesn't-
Do you think most people seem to lease these fancy all these vehicles? Like, was the average person big leasers? Like,
The leasing is still.
A big thing?
Still a thing, yes.
yeah, and they want all the toys with the leasing, right? So,
And I guess every 4 years you get a brand new vehicle.
right,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Anyways.
Well, but
anyone-
just like-
Depends too, if someone's doing a business expense or buying
Yes,
personal,
correct.
Yeah.
it depends
Still
on how
driving
you
my
offset it.
15-year-old Dodge Caravan because it's paid for.
You need the other new car for the backup camera.
Yeah, I do need that, yeah. Okay. Okay, well, thank you for your answers. Committee members, like I said, we heard a lot of this in the budget process. We just punted it to here so that we could have a little more time. If anyone has any more questions, now's the time, and if not, maybe we could have a motion to approve the business plan.
I'll move that, Madam Chair, that was thorough,
All
appreciate
right.
it. Did you send that summary that we were talking about, if you could do
Yes,
that?
I will send some. It was just like, it was really good. It was on electric vehicles, what we're doing.
How's that, we can zone in on some details that you think we should know.
Yeah.
I'd like to take a look at that, thank you.
There's been a lot of discussion on electronic vehicles, especially with the fact that we've had such a cold couple of weeks. They're saying that the range is about half the amount of kilometers in this cold weather, so. interesting in the sense that, you know, we're, this technology is good for some, is good for some aspects of our fleet, but in others, probably wouldn't work, so.
Okay, so Councillor Sharma has moved to receive this as business plan. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you.
Great, Mr. Kent,
Okay.
you're gonna come and talk about the sidewalks. And people are cheering about the sidewalks this winter.
You don't want to jinx that.
You know,
I mean, I actually said it.
You're, people who are texting me or social media have said, they're really happy with how aggressive we've been on the sidewalks, and that's what, 50 new.
Well, it's because we bought new machines.
New machines, yeah.
We're funding it.
Weather's been really good for us too.
Plus, it's quite a different winter this one.
Yeah.
A bit below average trees,
Sorry?
A bit below average winter so far.
Not from the cold.
No, average, you're talking about accumulation.
Snow and wind.
No, I think from winter to winter, maybe about average. Normal.
It seems like I've been cold since 1957. That's how long this winter's been.
There to
Morning. So this report is following a motion to conduct an environmental scan for best practices on sidewalks during melting periods or freeze and thaw. We reach out to 19 cities, got responses from 8, and the survey included information on their practices regarding snow storage, how they deal with or how often they get those occurrences of melting and freezing incident during the winter, use of any chemicals to address melting of snow and ice, and their snow triggers, snow clearing triggers. We added also information that puts everything into a bit of a context for weather between the relevant months, which is December, January, and February. You can see the differences between the cities and how much they get snow and their salting opportunities, freeze-thaw days, and the melting hours on average for the past 10 years during those months. Overall, this report is submitted to be accepted as information. Interesting to see how much cities are trying to reach bare pavement, but their conditions are different. The weather conditions are different. Using chemicals, the plowing triggers are different. They plow immediately, which result in multiple plows. And use chemicals that have some obviously cost and environmental effects. And a few that we actually spoke with are also trying the best to maintain their sidewalks to a good condition, to remove some displacements on a yearly basis to reduce damages to them. So there are some other practices, but when we look at Winnipeg and how often those occurrences of freeze-thaw cycles are happening, we have the lowest amount of those occurrences. So when we look at cost versus benefit, something to ponder on, but overall, we haven't compared overall policies. We believe we have a very strong policy, and we provide I think probably one of the best services in Canada, and plow everything that there is to plow. And so with that, questions.
Okay, questions, committee members? Councillor Sharma?
So Michael, you're saying best services in Canada. We get the most snow in Canada, right?
We don't get the most snow. We kind of in the middle there, depends on the years and the cycles. We don't get the most snow, but we plow all our inventory, plow all our streets, all our sidewalks, pathways, back lanes, not all cities. And so we address everything.
Who gets more snow than us?
Well, everybody in Eastern Canada,
We have St. John's,
Yeah,
Quebec,
there's this
Ottawa.
like Frontier France.
they get feet.
So
They had 40 centimeters on Wednesday.
So what we learned, if anything, jurisdictions that we want to, did you mention anything, or is there anything?
We currently our trigger is 5 centimeters. And we, as this winter, we try to be at it as soon as possible, even if we get a little bit less than 5, we don't plow. And I think the more timely plowing is key and not keeping those, and again, on our priority 3 streets, because they plowed last, but they plowed in the same events, we plowed last. Some compacted snow is occurring, people are walking in those. But again, it's a matter of cost to start plowing earlier, which means result in multiple plows in one event.
It just depends on what's to come next day, freeze thaw, or is it gonna melt, right? There's a lot of considerations.
Right, I think that if we continue what we're doing right now with a very timely plowing, go out every time as soon as possible, once we get the trigger, even a little bit less than the trigger, just to go out and plow during blowing snow. I mean, the maintenance plows that we do every time we have blowing snow is crucial as well. Not just when we have accumulation, when all the snow is blown from the windrow into those sidewalks. This is an average season, and so far it went well. We could have very bad season with back-to-back events when you won't be able to achieve that level of service just because of multiple weather events. But for an average season, I think our current policy works well.
So the catalyst for this report was the high drama related to the free cycle and the troughing effect of the sidewalks. That's sort of what stimulated this, and the constant being thrown under the bus there last year. Anyways, so we don't salt our sidewalks. And that's something that some other cities do. Ottawa does, right?
Yeah, temperature variables are so different.
So,
Cities that are trying to achieve their payment, they are plowing earlier, and
Yeah.
they're using chemicals.
yeah, and the thing about using chemicals, I mean, it kills the ground, like we see what it does to the boulevard, the medians and the boulevards, right? So that is a downside. We do remove in the downtown mostly, right? We do remove one side of the windrows so that water can drain, right? We can do that on every single sidewalk.
We do that when we do hauling in the
Yeah.
downtown, post couple first events.
Right.
And that's how we really achieve the bare pavement when we have small spaces of pushing everything mechanically on
Yeah.
the sidewalk.
Yeah,
But we also usually go to the downtown to plow early in the event.
Yeah.
Immediately as it goes, so
Right.
it is an elevated level of service.
so, you know, I say this all the time when we have inquiries on snow. I really do believe that we have one of the best snow clearing policies in Canada. And we plow everything, and many cities don't. And I've only had one complaint. It was about Harrow Street this year. So honestly, I'm afraid again to say that, but yeah, you're doing a great job. And more machines, more staffing, and more action, right? So Councillor Edie, you had a question?
So more snow, but they have faster melts, most of those cities, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
And sometimes they
Absolutely.
get a good melting. But so, well, we have very robust, but within our policy, is there procedures on how to properly remove snow for sidewalks? Like, I think we're still having problem at intersections when you got a median and that sort of thing.
So what we implemented last year is a second round of plowing on location where the sidewalk plows were first ahead of the streets.
I think that has made a huge difference.
I think overall the maintenance plows behind the whole operation makes a difference. It's a fast operation, but it does those small cleanups around the ramps and push buttons and all that. So we have implemented that. I think it works well, so.
I know that works, but I had an encounter and I heard from some others, the median, like you get a big median like on Main Street, for example. I'm not sure how Broadway's looking. But it's like they didn't plow the median sidewalk, so
So that could be.
when
missed.
you're a blind navigator.
Yeah, and we need.
So I was wandering around in the middle of the median looking for a sidewalk.
No, we should be plowing that, and if something was missed,
It should be, yeah,
definitely.
I don't know what happened, but I heard it's happened at some other medians too, so. Anyway,
Take it away, yeah.
but so that seems, I did notice that it is better, there's no like big window or hit the push button or whatever.
And again, we had some training, enhanced training for our
Yeah.
operators. We had a session with all our operators, with 3 representatives from the accessibility community. And vision impairment, senior and wheelchair users, and all 3 were there to speak on their experience in front of those operators. We wanted to link the actual boots on the ground with the customers that actually using that service, and I think that was a good session. I think there were about over 70 operators in the room, and we are the ones that actually plowed most of the sidewalks in the city forces. So that connection was, I think, good and provided some kind of
Awareness, really.
awareness and understanding who's really using your sidewalks and what they're
It's a
struggling.
human approach to it.
Yes, it is.
Okay, Councillor Chambers, you had a question?
Yes, I just watched the news the other night. You were talking about, the fact that City of Winnipeg has been more proactive in terms of sidewalk clearing and whatnot. But it talked about, I believe it was Montreal and one other city that clear snow right away. Like it's more immediate than the City of Winnipeg, who waits for 5 centimeters to accumulate before clearing pure one.
When they do
right,
their
P1s
hauls
and
for
P2s.
burrows, when they do their burrow hauls.
Yeah, so the news report did talk about the fact that it would be somewhat cost prohibitive for us to do that here. But how cost prohibitive?
Well, again, we identified the removal, like the windrow story from, what was it, 2016? I think we did provided a response back then. We haven't done a full detailed analysis of what our, if we did all city streets and back lanes, there's not enough.
We have
What is
about
the equipment?
I'm not sure, the question is for windrow or for the early plowing of sidewalks?
And streets.
No, but the difference is that they're hauling. They're plowing and hauling. So there's a big difference there. We have over half our city is in, half of our sidewalks are in a grid system buffered from the roadway.
Okay.
So your sidewalk technically would never get, that windrow would never get hauled.
Okay.
Okay, so I forget how many thousand kilometers of that we have, right? So what you're looking at in another city is you have back a curb sidewalk and you're in a borough where there's nowhere to place snow. So what they do is they run the blowers, and they also use melters there too. So they run melters right into the drain system there because they have the climate for it. So they have ice melters and they have the large fast moving haulage blowing through. Yeah.
Okay, so that gets blown right into the back of
A semi.
a semi, and they haul it away.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for multiple plows, early plow, some cities are plowing when the accumulation starts.
Yeah.
But that will result in multiple plows. So if you plow right now the streets once,
More money.
it's gonna be 2-3 times per event.
Okay, is there any data that supports in terms of reduced amount of accidents as a result of that early plowing or continuous plowing? No, okay. All right.
Okay, so, good report. Councillor Aller didn't come to talk to it, but, whatever. Any other?
That takes drama.
Well, and I'm still PTSD from that episode last year, but anyways, so, okay, can we have a motion to receive the report of information? Councillor Chambers?
Yeah.
All right,
No,
all in favor?
This is a great report.
No, this is good. This is a good update. Good to use, good for, to share with people. This is good information for people when they call you
Yeah.
and they go on,
Absolutely.
you know?
Nice glasses, Councillor
Oh,
Lewis.
thank you very much. Yes. Okay, so, thank you, Mr. Cantor. Good work. Keep it up.
Yep.
Thanks for always responding to me. I can't believe it. That's wonderful. Okay, all right. Now, this is a good one. Report of the Municipal Infrastructure Chair.
You can
Yes.
call the question.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay. So now this is the report of the Municipal Infrastructure Chair at the U of M. Great.
Okay, so this is the progress update for the municipal infrastructure chair and the work that he's been doing in 2024. So there was 3 different items that they were working on this year, which includes looking at our new asphalt pavement specifications. So they're testing the new mix designs and determining that they're gonna last on average 30% longer. This is through looking at rut testing, improved aggregate sources, and improved binders for the aggregate or for the asphalt itself. The second item they were looking at was a balanced mix design. This is looking at the addition of recycled asphalt pavement in new mix designs and reusing that material. So they're looking at recycled asphalt pavement between 10 and 15% in the new mix designs. Anything over 20% usually will land up coming with unreliable mixes. However, they're looking at like separating, grading and fractionalizing the mixes so that they can look at adding additional more than 20% in and seeing if there's stable mixes as well. So that work is ongoing, and there's going to be a report later this year from the Sport Infrastructure Chair on that work. The third thing they were looking at was non-destructive pavement with a deflectometer, and one of the project that's highlighted is Avanoji Mikana, where we undertook a new pavement type where we milled off the asphalt, rubbleized the existing pavement, concrete pavement in place, and then built up an aggregate layer on top of that with new asphalt. So the whole point of that research was to confirm that the pavement design that we actually undertook there was going to perform the way it was supposed to be intended, and that testing confirmed that pavement design. So that pretty much covers the three things that have been done. The work is still ongoing on all three, and it'll continue into 2025.
Okay, do committee members have any questions? Councillor Edie?
Progress is happening, technology changes. Do we pay attention, or does the Chief Peguis Extension, Henderson, Marty, does it, that P3, I mean, they're using only asphalt on actual road. And it does roll, well, it gets a lot of weight too, right? But, so did they pay attention to what we're doing here, and
they have
a partner in trying to figure out if the asphalt lasts longer?
So one thing they did do last summer, DBF2, which is the contractor for Chief Peguis extension, they undertook a mill and fill project, and they did include polymers in their mixes to improve the rut resistance. So that benefits them as well, because if the pavement lasts, the life cycle lasts longer, they have to do less maintenance work during the 30-year maintenance period.
So they did that last year?
They did that last year, yeah.
So they'll know how that's working coming up.
Yeah, it can continue to be monitored.
Yeah.
But like full depth asphalt pavement, we have that in a lot of locations now. We did it also with the Disraeli P3 on Firmer in 2 locations. The extension through of Kenniston through Waverly West, that was all asphalt as well. We've done a lot of asphalt pavements.
Councillor Chambers?
Yes, and thank you for this report, Brad. Watching on the news again the other day, the fact that there is a composite that can be used to fill potholes that expands and contracts along with the actual, but it's again cost prohibitive. Are there any other technologies that are out there that would enhance I guess the repairs or the duration of the repairs? I note that springtime, as it's starting to melt and whatnot, they're using the cold mixture, which really doesn't last as long as say the hot mixture does. But are there any other technologies out there that would be more sustainable and less costly?
Well, pothole patching is systemic of the pavement deteriorating underneath. And you're trying to fill potholes in freezing conditions or near freezing conditions. If the substrate's not prepared properly, which it really can't be at that time of the year, it's hard to get anything to stick. That's why like the more permanent pothole repairs, and we say they're permanent, but they're only lasting about a year or two, probably need to be done in summer with the hot mix after you can dry out the area and patch it. But it's still only a Band-Aid. It's not really fixing the problem.
So there's no real solution. This is just the way it is.
Investment into your reconstruction and rehabilitation.
Yeah.
The one thing that kind of makes or identifies Winnipeg a little bit differently than a lot of other centers is that a lot, because of the condition of where we're at with our concrete roadways, and the majority of this city is concrete roadways, as we know, and because of the neglect for a number of decades, decades ago, you're dealing with a replace all or find a Band-Aid solution. And the Band-Aid solution, and I know a lot of people don't like when I say this, but the Band-Aid solution of putting an asphalt overlay, in other words, a flexible structure over a rigid structure as a temporary solution, is a temporary solution. But the maintenance of that flexible structure over that rigid structure is what challenges us. So you've got two different performing functions there on our roadways right now. So really, the solution is what you as council have continued to support and move forward, and that is the dedicated property taxes towards infrastructure renewal. So that's where we're at.
So I noticed, in driving through the intersection at Portage and Main, regardless of whether you're going east-west on Portage Avenue or north-south on Main Street, there seems to be a lot of potholes right in that area that have been created. So what is that a function of? Because it's like they're rather large and they're repairing seemingly every day. Is it a freeze thaw or is it materials?
Yes, the underlying concrete is probably deteriorated in those areas. And then you're trying to patch it on a daily or weekly basis. And because the area can't be properly prepared in winter, it's they come out and gotta do them again. We're doing like thousands of potholes a year. A lot of them are the same one over and over.
So what would be how would that be remediated then? Are you looking at doing hard surgery to fix those potholes in the area or just patch them?
Well, so it depends on the access requirements too. So if you look, find examples all across the city is when construction's identified on a roadway and you change the direction of the vehicles. In other words, you allow for one-way or two-way traffic on a single or two-way roadway, like Inkster Boulevard, for example. When you have that traffic moving against the constructed pavement, you see performance-related impacts to that because you're moving traffic against what it's normally, how the weight of vehicles has moved and performs with those joints. When you go against that grain, go the other way, you're pushing weight in a different direction that it hasn't performed that way for a number of years. There's a lot of that throughout the city. So when you looked at, use the example of the bridge work over the last couple of years over the Red River, and look at that area and how many potholes were created as a result of that changing traffic, right? And when you look at remediation, there's areas where if there's an availability to do a bigger repair, like in other words, Portage and Main, what are we going to do right now while we have traffic down the two lanes going both directions, right? So that's temporary.
But the long-term plan would be to do more of a hard concrete fix than just patching?
Well, it would be whatever our pavement management group determines is a need there.
Like there may be a need for some repairs in the pavement there, and then redo the asphalt in that section.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a few questions here. So, you make a pretty big statement here in, the first bullet. So pavement designed according to the proposed updates to the city's asphalt specs are expected to perform better and last longer. They limited testing, which, what is a year? Like,
Here,
a year. The increase in pavement service can be in the order of 30%. So how are you monitoring that? Do you bring reports? I've never seen any to this committee that say, look, we did this test. You know, we hear you want all these changes in this testing. Where are reports or where is something coming telling us that, you know,
this is it, like really.
well, this
like-
is only it because we asked for it.
Well, this is part of the municipal infrastructure shared work, but we've undertaken testing here to do this. There's more testing to do. Yes, we have to monitor it as we change the specs because this is new for us. So
Right.
we're doing it, and we don't do these things in isolation. Whenever we do a specification update, we look at other jurisdictions and what they're doing and the testing. We look at research from other areas. We don't just pull this stuff out of the air.
No, I know that.
So-
I'm sure of that. So I guess the question, another question is, I'm gonna pick the William Clement Parkway, okay? So that was designed 30 years ago, 30-year-old engineering, 30-year-old spec, whatever you're doing for specs back then. It was maintained, constantly maintained.
Not really, but okay.
Well, I mean, the William Clement Parkway is an incredible, like,
Yeah.
it's incredible. Like, it's always been, I travel it all the time, it's been great. So now we have these spec designs. The specs require, the designs require an increase of cost to build the same kilometer of road. But yet, unless we maintain them,
Yeah,
right,
pavement management.
so what we're doing is we're building, you know, I'll use the term Cadillac roads, but we're still not putting the amount of maintenance into it that we should, because we don't have the budget. So I guess the question is, why are we building these Cadillac roads? You're saying you think they're gonna last 30% longer with the same level of maintenance,
With the same level of maintenance.
which is kind of half non-existent.
And that is the next piece of the puzzle that needs to be determined, need to be shored up, is we need to come up with more pavement preservation techniques and timing of when those things should be done. So that is the next.
So how are you working on
Well,
that?
that was, first of all, that was identified in our strategy.
Right?
So, and when we say, how are we working on that? We just recently, over the last year, purchased an updated pavement management system, collecting all the data, creating those models, using those models to drive that, again,
Identify,
preservation and maintenance funding requirements
right.
per square meter of that type.
What
of-
is the budget right now for the preservation and maintenance of?
Can I just do a follow-up on that?
Pardon me?
Just before you get into the next question. You just made a,
You wanna hear about the
So,
maintenance stuff?
no, okay. Who, for example, the then called Charleswood Bridge, now the William Clement, or is it still the Charleswood Bridge? I'm not sure. Or even with Chief Peguis Trail. So who put together what the maintenance cost is? Because we don't just pay, for
Well, it's all part
one
of the
part.
P3.
We're giving them the maintenance dollars required for them to deliver us in 30 years, a same condition, infrastructure.
So with Charleswood and Chief Peguis Trail were completely different. For Charleswood, although it was a P3, the city contributed to a maintenance fund and then determined when maintenance should be done. So when we did the handback, yeah. So like we still undertook all the minor maintenance the city did, and the P3 contractor would undertake the major maintenance when we determined it needed to be done. So really, there wasn't a lot of money from the maintenance funds spent in the first 30 years, which was great because we actually had a really good product when it was built. So at the end of the term, we determined what maintenance should be done on the roadway and on the bridge, and we negotiated that with DVF one time, and they undertook that.
So the maintenance on the I forget about cheap bugs, better comparison would be the.
Well, I'll just finish with Chief Pegless. It's a different situation. They bid an amount at the beginning of the project, and there's a handback criteria and non-conformance criteria throughout the 30-year term. So they have to undertake the maintenance so that they're in conformance with the contract, and there's specific performance requirements that they're doing. So it's a little bit different.
But we're paying the money for that maintenance, right?
Well, we're paying
Under a lease. Under a lease.
monthly cost for the capital, the maintenance and everything.
Right.
And so, but the risk is totally on them to make sure that facility is maintained to the specifications, and it'll be handed back in accordance with those as well.
Okay, so back to building these Cadillac style roads and not having enough maintenance to maintain them, to keep them in that condition. Now we're looking at, we've got these different tools that we're looking at. Understand where we need to do the
Well,
maintenance.
and it's not like we don't understand where we need to do. So when you're rehabilitating or reconstructing a roadway now, like those plans are now in place, right? It's how do you manage or bridge a lot of those aged ones, and what are the significant steps that need to be done? In other words, how long, if it's a concrete roadway or it's an asphalt roadway, and then the one that's kind of new to, like, not new to Winnipeg, but when you look at research all around the world, is the asphalt over concrete. And what are the things that you need to do? Do you need to go back in and mill and fill every 11 years or whatever, right? Like,
So like the whole point here is that if the pavement lasts 30% longer, that means we can push off an intervention and not close that road again and rehabilitate it sooner. So we can last longer. Like 30 years, we should get 30 years out of a new road before we have to do anything. So Charleswood did its job. We did a mill and fill on it. We'll get another 15 to 20 years before we have to do something again.
So what would you estimate the cost of these spec changes to be for, and cost increase per kilometer or whatever?
That's what, last year we did a few test cases. We did a few projects, including Abinogi Mikino, which had what we call super pave, which is a very high performance. And the other ones we did are called Marshall mixes, and they have like higher quality aggregate and polymers in it for the binder. So generally, we think that the cost increase is in the asphalt alone, not the project. The asphalt alone is about 5 to 8% type of thing. So about $15 a ton.
So are you gonna revelize the westbound?
That's correct.
Abinogi coming up?
Between St. Mary's and River Road.
You're not going further?
But that will be a mill and fill, but we probably need to do more of a rehabilitation with more joint repairs. But not through that section yet.
Okay, Councillor Eady?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the question about potholes. I'm not sure if it was eventually done through a reporting mechanism, was tried. Whatever happened with there was that gentleman who had a business and he was using
he's using recycled asphalt.
and he insisted that it lasts longer. So what was the result of those potholes?
Well, we tried a couple of locations and didn't get the performance expectations that were identified.
It wasn't it.
Everything's always based on the substrate below, and if you're trying to put something on a poor surface, it's never going to last.
Yeah, no, and I mean, he was using it in other places, not on, streets that get a workout too, right? Anyway, so actually, the last time Main Street was done northbound there, that was actually repaired to concrete and then recovered with asphalt, right?
Oh, there was some joint repairs and then asphalt overlay, yeah.
Wasn't the building.
I think he had it as a minor rehabilitation.
Or was it?
Yeah.
Kind of?
There's kind of overlap between the treatments, like a mill and fill will always have a few joint repairs as well.
I noticed, well, that was like 10 years ago, so it's wearing out already. Well.
Okay,
kind of.
okay, so let's keep
Sorry.
moving here.
Just a question, that's all.
All right, so that's the report. Does someone want to move the report?
I'll move,
Okay, thank you, Counselor Eady. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, now this is one that,
You were gonna make
oh, we were gonna make a, right, we
Business
didn't get the verbal report on Portage and Main, and I'd like to hear a verbal report. So we can have a motion. Someone make a motion for new business, please. We can get the verbal report.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
okay, so we got a Portage and Main Valentine's Day update.
Oh,
That's,
that's sweet.
And being such a positive statement, that must mean that we have some positive continuation of information. So overall, just like we talked about last month, the project is progressing and on schedule and within the council approved budgets. I mean, that's a positive right off the bat. The traffic management current status, and for those that don't frequent the area, what we have right now is on northbound Main, we have 2 curb lanes closed, no right turn permitted to Portage Avenue East. That one's permanent. Southbound Main Street, we got the 2 curb lanes closed right now. Eastbound Portage Avenue, you got 2 curb lanes closed to Main Street. 1 curb lane closed east of Main on Portage Avenue East. That's adjacent to the 335 Main, which is the MMF building. Westbound Portage, we got 1 curb lane closed. That schematic is gonna stay that way for at least another month. That look and feel. The one thing is right now we're not experiencing extreme delays. I don't know when we talked last about even you as elected officials coming to and from the south end of the city, how that's been going. We were down throughout the middle of the day yesterday and the day before, and I didn't experience any delays in cycle times for those moving through that area. Rush hour, of course, on the way home, there's a few more cycle times, but really when you get into the only time you're going to really experience delays is when there's an incident, because you don't have that extra lane now. So if somebody breaks down on one of those on those 2 southbound lanes, yeah, you're going to experience delays, and that's well understood. From what you're seeing, you see hoarding being done at a number of corners. You see the MMF, that area is not yet hoarded. They're hammering out that low lying area. So they were jackhammering that area yesterday with excavators, and it's all exposed and visible to the public. On the southwest corner there, the Scotiabank 200 Portage, the work being done in the hoarding. They're continuing to work on the street lighting conduit installations, the traffic signal installations. There's one that has to stay. That's still what you see visible on the outside. There was from the wall of the Scotiabank building to the floor there's a drainage grate system that's being rebuilt, and of course working on the waterproofing the membrane through some of the sandblasting that they're doing prior to waterproofing and prep work there. There's also expected works coming up. There's a fire stand that was visible on the outside when it was open. That fire stand has to be relocated closer to the building, so that's still outstanding and has to be done. And of course, complete the waterproofing and backfilling. On the southeast corner, 335 Main, that's the final demolitions and removals there. And then the heating and the boarding will be, enclosure will be installed. And of course, like we talked about last month, the fire egress systems required to close the staircase access to the concourse needs to be installed. On the northeast corner, there 365 Main, that's the Richardson area. What we have going on there is removals and waterproofing prep and excavations for new utility installations. One of and again, what's coming up is the continued excavations for the utilities and then traffic signals and street lighting and installations. And what that is installing the bases and the conduit to support that. So the structure, the more or less the footing that takes care of those signals, and then the waterproofing. The one piece you'll see when all that work is completed is the facility just to the east at the Richardson corner. That is staying as is. There's a lot of I guess.
You mean the
thing,
the
bunker. Yeah, the bunker. That bunker's not. Yeah, that bunker's staying. And yeah, it's not in the scope, but it'll be there. And what we have to work on is how the banding of for the sidewalks and how that flow will occur. But that's one thing people might not. They might have thought that would be gone, but that's staying. And then on the northwest, the 201 201 Portage, the BMO, that's right now we have the contractor and Hydro working on the temporary street lighting.
Federation.
What's that?
Federation.
No, this is northwest 201. Yeah, this is the BMO building. Yeah, the MMF is the southeast corner. That's 335. Yeah. So and again, traffic signals are completing their temporary work for the next phase. And again, the waterproofing removals and then the prep work, manhole adjustments from Hydro, street lighting and traffic signal installations. And then the old Nanton building, that piece that was there, the roof waterproofing prep work is being completed as well. Any of the risks, we haven't, I don't think anything's really changed outside, like with the automatic door controls and a new concourse fire control panel. We've already discussed that. We had, the one thing is that during the demolitions, the contractor broke a small hole through the concourse roof. And that was because there's a supporting roof and then the actual roof, right? So the design drawings didn't reflect what was actually there. So when they experienced it and where that damage occurred was in the Dolan door actually. And what it did was some granular came on the tiles and the contractor stopped immediately. So there was no harm and no further damage. They assessed the situation and made the necessary repairs. We've had a few complaints through our real estate division. Some of the tenants, of course, have identified noise complaints on the southwest side. The MD Steel work was a little bit limited the last few days because there's a media facility underneath that area in the underground, and they had a commitment from over a year ago on a project, and that project's wrapping up on actually today, I believe. And with the completion of that project, they don't have any additional scheduled work. So this little delay here is short-lived, and the media group is supporting the work that we need to do. And is a wrap.
Okay, so any questions? What I'd like to propose, and I don't know if the committee wants to do this or not, but I'd like to propose a site tour at some point. So
Where did you meet?
Yeah. I want to go in the hoarding and I
Yeah,
talked to
so-
some MV Steel reps over the last few weeks. It sounds very exciting.
Yeah, what we'll do is, why don't we, when the MMF hoarding is constructed,
Yes.
then we'll be able to do, we'll organize a full tour there.
Okay, the Public Works
no.
Committee would like to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You will need, for,
Yeah, safety.
Best.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you the
All
notes.
geared up. Okay. Okay, so could I have a motion to accept the verbal report?
So moved.
Councillor Chambers, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, perfect. Okay, so the next agenda item up is the proposed commercial development located on the east side of Inkster Boulevard, west side of King Edward. And I think what you did was you worked with the proponent to try and,
Yes, the Catman Transportation. Yeah, at the last meeting, this is laid over because there was an ask from John Winthrop.
Yeah.
They asked if they could take a look at the access for proposed future like gas station as part of this site. So we have to lay it over so we can go back and discuss that internally. My staff are willing to support this, the public service is willing to support this, but we want to make an amendment to the recommendations just to incorporate a condition that puts some control on it so we can ensure that this is dealt with properly.
Mhm.
And so I passed that information on to the clerk. I can read it out loud if you haven't received it yet.
Sure.
It just says that you're like a new condition 2. It says that the development agreement is amended to stipulate that the private approach be removed at no expense to the city if a fuel station is not constructed on the subject site within 2 years of the approach approval. All is determined by and to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. So,
Which supports Mr. Wintroup's
Yeah.
statement about in his letter submission. So
we just want to make sure we have like a way to enforce this if we need to take that access out. We're not saying it's not going to happen. If it does, if the gas station goes forward, then everything's good. This doesn't apply.
That was my question, Jim. Does the applicant, are they aware of this amendment?
well, they asked for the condition to be identified as such. So in the submission, what was identified is that the approach be removed at no expense to the city if a fuel station is not constructed on the subject site.
But are they aware of the intent of this whole clause?
Yes,
They
Yeah.
are aware of it fully?
that's,
That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
because they're not here today and
Nope.
they can't be here today. So there's a lot of back and forth that went on at this committee, a lot of work public service did, thank you.
Yep.
And then over at, actually, I think it was community, yes, Councillor Reedy and I on this file as well. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to make sure we've got it where it needs to be.
I just want to confirm this is that whole corner lot.
yeah, the north side of Inkster there
So-
at King Edward, yeah.
So there's others
Northwest.
we're dealing with on the King Edward side, but on this is to deal with the Inkster side of that.
Yeah, this is specific. This is like the one.
So they're aware, right, Jim? All right,
okay,
anything further on it?
okay. So can we have a motion to proceed then?
I will move it, Madam Chair, in my ward, as amended, the amendment that was read out by Mr. Captain.
Okay, great. All in favor? Carried.
And we'll also just need supporting comments on this one because it is similar to a non-conforming.
Say as per the report, Mr. Clerk, we heard from the public service, at the last meeting in a little bit of detail now. So I mean, that's with the thought of the public service and the work they've done to come up with the solution.
Which is it won't be needed if there's no
That's right.
gas station. So.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, perfect. All right, now this next report is exciting.
Yes, this next report is on installing leading pedestrian intervals or LPIs in downtown Winnipeg. So this report it outlines the planned installation of leading pedestrian intervals at signalized intersections throughout Winnipeg's downtown. You may be familiar with LPIs. It's where you give the pedestrian a couple of seconds of time to start stepping off into the intersection before the parallel vehicle movement gets the green light. To just get them further into the intersection before the cars start. So they've been used in a couple of locations in the downtown already. One of them is outside of the Via Rail station at Broadway and right there. So we've taken a look at other locations throughout the downtown. We came up with an assessment process to use to evaluate whether it was a candidate for this. So not every intersection in the downtown is being done. Where there's already delay or there's congestion, we're not including them, but we got them planned for 80% of the intersections in the downtown. In the long term, we're going to look at doing this in other places, but we want to use the downtown as sort of a test case. We still want to review that the process we use to come up with the yes, no on installing them. And so we're going to keep working on that before we implement them elsewhere. But there's other locations throughout the city where they could be a valuable addition. Right now, we're working on getting them installed in the downtown. We're going to be starting that in March. And it doesn't take long to install them. It's a simple change to the timing of the signal. So it can be quickly.
Okay. Councillor Edie?
It's great to use it downtown. I would just point out, not long after a girl got hit at Main and Inkster, we did implement. I was reading this several years ago in Florida where they were using this technique here to get the pedestrians established so that they're visible and everything. So you were saying they are used elsewhere around the city already too, right?
I believe they're used in a few places. They're primarily used in the downtown right now. We list a couple of downtown locations in the report.
I'm just gonna say, I haven't heard any problems at Inkster regarding pedestrians anymore. So, just wanted to say it works really well. What intersections would you not do it in down? Like, are you looking at implementing it at some of the most difficult intersections, which would be Memorial and Portage, or Memorial Colony and Portage? You're looking at implementing that there. That's downtown.
I don't have the tool at hand, but we've got this they've got these different factors that we look at where we put them in. We look at the number of pedestrians, how much delay there already is there. Like we've got timing information on all the signals, so we can tell which ones are already getting long queues on them. This adds a little bit of extra queuing to it's a little bit of extra delay. So wherever possible, we want to try and put these in. And we recognize that there's a bit of give and take between what's best for motorists, what's best for pedestrians. We're trying to get these in as many places as we can. As we say, 80% of them, the locations is where we're starting off.
I guess, Councillor Edie, the applicability criteria is on page 7.
Okay.
And essentially, these leading pedestrian intervals, they'll not benefit pedestrian safety if they're installed at an intersection where turn movements are already restricted. And the examples they identify, like no left turns, left turn movements are already controlled by protected phasing, or there's no ped crossing.
Yeah.
Anyway, Main and Inkster is a problem because you had people going left, north, coming, and you had a pedestrian crossing. Kid got hit.
Okay, so you're saying that these LPIs are going to take you how long to do downtown?
Check that. I think we got it in the report.
And this is originating from our road safety strategic action plan.
Well, yeah, I thought it's supposed to be full implementation and
We're saying, yeah, we're gonna start in March. I think we can get this all done by May.
Right, so a couple months to do downtown, that's great. It's a matter of sitting in your signalization office to make the adjustments. Is that what I'm understanding? It's not go out and physically do it?
Yeah, I believe much of this stuff can be done from the office, yes.
Right. So I'm gonna just bring this forward because it's very favorable treatment to intersections, not all intersections, but very favorable treatment. You've got in here, recent research found that LPIs reduce all pedestrian turning vehicle conflicts that occur at intersection and that have an overall crash reduction factor of around 13%. That was stated in a study. So that's huge. That's really big. So I want to put this up at the committee. I want to ask you, but I'd really like to proceed with this. I would like the whole city, where applicable, to be done within a year.
In the year?
I would have to take that back to see if that's feasible, but it's our intent to move forward with this. We
Right.
wanted to use the downtown, we wanted to get some information on how well the downtown is performing and then roll it out, but
When we look at the map and we see a lot of it is on corridors, like the northwest is just a big blood vein of red dot. What road is that? Is that McPhillips?
Yeah.
McPhillips, okay. So we see McPhillips, you know, we see Main Street.
Over 800 signalized intersections in this.
Right, so if we think about downtown and we think, you know, we're hearing that, you know, by May. So I would like to make that motion. And then, you know, if you can do it, great. If you can't, I'd like you to report back on it with to what is applicable, to doing the ones that is applicable, but to do it citywide.
yeah, I'm not gonna say yeah and throw my staff under a bus,
Yeah.
but I think you take that away and I talked to signals, I talked to road safety and yeah, we would.
Cause it's
Yeah.
it's like a very cost effective way to increase safety for the vulnerable road user. I'm not worried about the cars, right? Because they're all in their little universes of whatever. But like, these are the vulnerable road users. If we can increase safety by 10%, maybe 13, whatever, on some of these key intersections, maybe you start with the corridors, maybe you start with, I don't know, collectors, whatever, but I would like to see an approach that the city, that the public service does to try and do as much as they can citywide within a year.
Let's take that away and maybe we report back as well on an interim basis, so we can say how that's gonna go.
So we'll make that
Yeah.
motion and we'll have them come back maybe in 6 months.
Sure. And when they are doing them, the first priority really should be the high collision intersections.
And I think with our road safety branch, that would be a
Yeah,
key piece of it, yeah.
I mean, like, look at McPhillips. It's, okay, so if you could,
Because part of this is gonna be figuring out how we implement it, do we do it
A
like
lot of them are.
quadrant by quadrant or corridor by
What's
corridor?
already there.
yeah. But if we can assess the ones that need to be changed, and look at them and, you know, really for the positive impact that comes from this. And if we can look at doing it citywide where applicable, right? At appropriate signalized intersections, or I don't know how you want to word that. And that the department can come back in 6 months and give us an update on, you know, tell us about downtown, tell us where you're at. Like, don't come back and say in 6 months we haven't started.
Right.
Come back and say, here's where we're at.
Yeah,
And-
I know, maybe a program, how we would implement it and study it and monitor it once it's complete.
And once it's been installed.
Yes.
Well, yeah, again, part of that learning, again, just not to lose sight of the report, part of that learning was to come up with policy on the
Well, so, yeah,
installation.
That's why we are,
So probably that
Yeah.
should be the more important piece, is coming back with that installation policy and then ensuring that that is being met.
Right, I hear you.
we
So
were
can do
already
that.
planning on doing it.
Yeah.
But,
I know.
Yeah, but yeah, like, we
we've
don't.
seen proven results in other cities that this works.
Right.
I don't think our intersections are dramatically different.
No, it's just ensuring that we're using that data for the right decision making and not wasting our energy evaluating intersections where it doesn't meet the criteria, right? So.
Sure, so you can come back in 6 months and tell us where
Yeah,
you're
okay.
at. You can still continue, like
Okay.
you can still continue doing them, come up with your policy. And continue doing them and then. Okay, so I don't know, what do you think, committee, any comments on it? Okay, we'll hear the motion that Peter is drafting up here to just add to this. I just think it's been done in other cities.
Another step. Yeah.
It's another step. It's really cost effective. It's not a silver bullet, but it is a cost effective way to increase and reduce pedestrian crash at
Yeah,
intersections.
it's not gonna prevent the individual that walked across,
With the
you know,
headset on and isn't looking.
against the lights this morning, right? And walk right into the side of a vehicle, like,
Right,
that doesn't stop that.
perfect. Okay,
So again, we had conversations on this. it matches the transit priority signal, and that it will give a little.
Yeah, they'll figure out start with the transit ones and no right turns and all, every intersection.
Like the leading pedestrian?
Yeah.
So you get your walk symbol, for example, right?
Mhm.
You get your walk ahead of any change to
Lights.
lights.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, look at Gary Street, for example, right, with the cyclist option
Gary Street and.
at Portage Avenue.
Portage.
If you ever drive south, you'll see that leading change for cyclists, right?
So is it average, is it about 10 seconds? Is that what it is?
It varies depending on the location, but
Yeah.
it could be 10 seconds.
Yeah, so 10 seconds is, I'm sure some vehicle people will not like that, but 10 seconds is.
It just gets them out into the intersection away from the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we have here? And we'll outrun it by the department.
So we will be adding a new recommendation, which would be recommendation 2, which reads as follows: that the Winnipeg Public Service be directed to report back in 6 months' time with an update on progress of installing leading pedestrian intervals in downtown Winnipeg and the feasibility of installing similar infrastructure across the city at appropriate intersections.
No, not feasibility. We want them to continue doing it. It's a proven fact throughout cities. So they can.
We even say it in the report, Peter.
Of their ability to apply it across the whole city within a year. Isn't that what you're?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we're adding on to that the public service be directed to install similar infrastructure across the city at appropriate intersections.
And are they telling us what their plan is for that?
How do you
Yeah,
want
it's
to
it's part of the 6-month check-in to give it, to explain next steps and where we're at.
Okay, so read it again.
That the Winnipeg Public Service be directed to report back in 6 months with an update on progress of installing leading pedestrian intervals in downtown Winnipeg, and that the Winnipeg Public Service be directed to install similar infrastructure across the city at appropriate intersections.
Within the year. Citywide within the year.
A year now or?
Yeah.
So how does this technology work at stop signs?
Yeah, that's good. We'll take that offline.
Okay.
I should mention, I was just updated by my staff, the leading pedestrian interval is a 5-second head start, not a 10-second.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. Super. Okay.
That was just be honest.
And then, how will you report back on this? Like, it would be good to hear,
Well, I think we have this report, we're planning reports on road safety. This is a road safety
Yeah.
element, so
in the road safety annual report.
that could be a place where it goes.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of where the most appropriate place for it to go.
Yeah.
Could be a
Sure.
call out within that report, like
Okay.
an appendix or something.
Okay, so, that's my motion. Counselor Chambers, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll take the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Okay.
Thanks
Okay,
for bringing that forward.
well, it's a good report, right? The whole road safety initiative is fantastic. This is part of it.
Which is great.
Okay, number 7, traffic study at Allgate and Twickham Circle.
Yeah, so
Twickenham.
this is one that I submitted through Real Community Committee.
Yep.
And I'm pleased to see that the public service is supporting the idea of having a crosswalk there. This community is now fully built out. And right across the street there on the John Forsyth side of it, there is a lot of activity. There's a playground structure. There's also a couple of guys, and I want to give credit to Adam Spears and Terrence Matosing. Adam, you met at the Concordia Hospital golf tournament. He golfed with
Yes,
us.
right,
Yes,
right,
so he's
right.
a former pro golfer. Yeah. But he and Terrence built a pleasure rink right in that location, which is heavily utilized during the winter. The other part of it is that it's used, that area is also used for cross-country skiing. They come and groom trails there. So again, that park is highly utilized. So having a safe way to cross from the south area of Allgate to that area or amenity is very much needed. So I'm glad that the public service has concurred in that recommendation. So-
Yeah, no, that's good. I remember that intersection when I was the counselor and we'd
Yeah,
start
well,
with
and you
speed
put
tables,
speed
right?
tables,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, perfect. Well, motion to, you're putting forward a motion to accept the report?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Number 8, active transportation improvements on the Transcona Trail.
Okay, yes, so the public service was asked to explain why we did not go with a corridor for AT, which follows the rail corridor that goes behind Ned and Regent. There was a plan a long time ago to have the active transportation follow that alignment, like Pierce go behind where the Walmart and the Costco, not Costco, the Superstore and the Home Depot are, and then carry on through following the rail corridor towards the downtown. During the work on the Eastern Corridor study for rapid transit and other work that active transportation has been doing, there was a number of issues with following that alignment. For some reasons, including drainage issues with utilities, just an idea of it being not a good design from a SEPTED issue because it's so far away from destinations. It'd be a quiet stretch of corridor. For a number of reasons like that, we wanted to come up with an alternative alignment. And so that's what we've been proposed here. We've got a connection. It says in the report what the corridor looks like. It goes parallel to Nan and Regent on the north side. And there's a figure included on the appendixes A and B that show the routing. So in the long term, we could revisit the idea that rail corridor option
Right.
might be a possible parallel route if, say, there's redevelopment within the industrial area and it makes sense to tie that area into AT. But for now, we want to run through the residential property north of the busy automobile corridor, and it provides access to the residents who live there, as well as people going long distances into Transcona from the downtown.
Okay, so I'm familiar with this. It's the old trying to get out of Transcona connecting route, right? I guess my question is, where are we at with the counselor in the area on that? I don't know, he didn't come.
We have spoken to the councillor in the past,
Yep.
and he has expressed he likes the
industrial
other
route.
option. And he
Like
says
the other
we could do that one. He thinks it's a
Right.
no-brainer.
Right,
We've said, well, we've got the rationale for why we've said no to it.
right.
We've got that explained in this report. It's been presented as part of the Eastern Corridor study that this was the proposed option. There's been buy-in in the past from, like we talked to the AT advocates about this. We recognize that there's different AT users. Some are going to prefer a corridor that's uninterrupted. Some are going to prefer a corridor that goes through a residential area. So trying to meet the needs of as wide an audience as we can. We thought that this north option is the way to go.
Okay, all right.
It's not just Transcona, though. This is Elmwood EK as well.
Well, that I should say that, yeah, like the pushback from it, like it sort of what's been driving this has been conversations with the councillor from Transcona. But these corridors serve multiple wards, of course. They connect different wards together and provide connectivity to and from infrastructure. So we're trying to fill in the missing links in the network. Yep.
Okay, so are there any questions? Okay.
I'll move
You'll move it?
to receive it as information.
Yeah.
I'll move it.
It's to receive it as information, it's an update, and then I see that it is being identified as one of the priorities in the pedestrian cycling master plan.
We've been working on the segment to the east that got recently finished over on east of Pennant Road.
Yeah.
So this is just a continuation filling in the segment.
Okay. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, speed limit study Waverly Street.
Okay, so we've been like the public service has been tasked with looking at the speed limits on, not just on residential roads, but on higher classification corridors. So as part of that, we're conducting this engineering speed limit study. I mean, this corridor here, at the moment, it's inconsistent. There are segments that are 60 kilometers an hour, segments that are 70 kilometers an hour, and segments that are 80 kilometers an hour. So you have people driving on it are adjusting their speeds. Some people are traveling faster and slower. There's room for improvement there. So based on the operating speed that was observed and the target speed that we want to see, we're making a recommendation that the speed limit be reduced to 70 kilometers along the corridor. In doing so, we also create there's this small segment of Bison Drive that acts as sort of like a continuation of this corridor. And so we want to make that 70 kilometers an hour as well. So the recommendations are here to make the corridor consistent, make it 70 kilometers an hour along the stretch.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm happy with this. So when are you coming forward?
Traffic, no, there.
Pardon me? When are you
Said
coming?
with the underpass, it's. Never mind.
When are you coming forward with other corridor studies?
I'd have to talk to staff about that,
Yeah.
but the idea is that they're going to flow through the process and come up as they're completed.
And when we do this, the engineering department studies it. And there, we don't do consultation on this, right? Like,
No, the process we followed hasn't been to do consultation on this.
Right.
Obviously, when you're changing speed limits, there's sometimes concerns there. You're gonna hear a lot of, but you're gonna hear some pushback.
Yeah.
And you're gonna hear some people say you're doing this just as a cash grab to do more enforcement.
well, we're not doing that.
But no, the idea of this is consistency and there's a safety aspect.
So can we talk about the 85th percentile? Because a lot of people are worked up about using the 85th percentile. Where are you at with the 85th percentile?
It's a standard that's been used for a long time. It's used in in a lot of documentation besides what the city of Winnipeg does. We're not the only city doing this. Well, we know that there's been talk that it's not the best way to do this. It's an outdated way of thinking.
Right.
There's other ways of thinking that are coming online. At the moment, it's a standard that we're using. We do look at these standards and we will make modifications as we go forward. If that 85% drops out of favor and is no longer the industry standard, then we will stop using it.
So what if the speed was going above the 85th percentile?
We'd have to look at that from a safety point of view. If the road would sometimes these roads are designed for a speed, but the posted speed is set at a different speed
Right.
to what it's possible to drive at. We're not going to just ramp the speeds up just because, people are
Driving
driving too
faster.
fast. We got to look at that and see if there's other elements. Has the road been, if the road was designed as a freeway and it's not being used as a freeway because of the number of accesses on it, then that would suggest we need to redesign that road to bring the speeds down because they shouldn't be operating at an unsafe speed that creates incidents. And we would know that from the data we would get on the performance point of view. We've been looking at intersections from operational point of view, from near misses and the incidents. We looked at redesigning them. As part of this new work we're doing on the strategic road network, looking at do we need to create more capacity? Do we need to make modifications to corridors to reduce delay? The idea of maybe making changes to speed limits is going to be part of that as well. But we don't want to just make speed limits just to keep ramping them up because people are driving too fast. But we need to look at why is that happening? Especially if there's some people driving way too fast and other people driving at the speed limit, you're creating an issue there by having differences in speed differential.
So I believe this report goes to council.
Yeah.
We can't just approve it here
Right.
and then apply signage and then crank the signage out.
Right.
We have to go through the
Okay, goes to
process.
council.
Yeah.
So then so it goes to council at the end of the month, then when do you do the sign changes?
There has to be a bylaw change. They changed the bylaw
Right.
so that it's
How long-
enforceable.
okay.
It's generally fairly quickly. It does vary. So
Then
there's
you
no,
put new signs up, right? You know how you put the little new, the text new, so people see
I have
that?
to check what our current decision making on that is. There's some rules of schools of thought that say that new signage is not helpful. There's other schools of thought that says it is helpful.
Right.
I need to check what the current state of the art is on that. But yeah, if we need to publicize it, educate and have the put the messaging out about it.
Okay, all right. If someone would like to move this report, or Counselor Edie, take the chair. I'll move the report. Okay, I'll move the report. Okay, well, Counselor Sharma, do you want to take the chair? I think Counselor Edie's doing something else. Okay, I'll move the report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary?
Okay,
Back to you. I'll
perfect.
move the
Okay, so motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Oh, yeah.